Hey guys, it's Professor Goodman. So I'm going to help out a little bit on the eMath assignments that are due this coming, not this coming Tuesday, but the week after this time. I'm going to look at the second part of Chapter 2's homework and then the first part of Chapter 3's homework. These will be due this coming, not this Tuesday, but next Monday. So check out if you're confused by that, check out the pacing calendar and confirm these due dates. Now, first things first, so let's do uh, the second part of Chapter 2. So I'm going to go through here. Of course, it looks different when I do it. Um, for the most part, this homework is pretty simple. It's just based on definitions. In class this week, we're going to talk about basically measures of spread. So we'll be talking about minimum values, quartiles, and medians, and so on. So when we get through done with class and you get done with your reading, these problems shouldn't be too difficult for you, and they don't really require any Excel. It's really just look at this box plot, look at how different they are, make your answer these based on these box plots. Most of them are pretty simple. Um, some of these are kind of tricky, of course, so make sure you read them carefully. Like here, it says the box plots below. They display the distribution of SAT scores in in two different schools. So you have SAT scores at this school at Shoretown and the one in Suburbia. Um, so look at what this is saying. So you see here, these are just scores, right? So based on these students, these are just their scores. They don't tell you anything at all about uh, how many students took, like how many students are there. Like it doesn't tell us anything about the students themselves, just their scores. So some of these, if they ask you, well, which one had more students? Well, how can you tell? All you can tell is the scores they got, right? So like the maximum score that Shoretown got on the SAT was a 1390. We don't know how many students got that, or if it was just one or what. Um, so if they ask us how many students took the SAT, well, there is not enough data to tell. It doesn't tell us who took it. So make sure read the questions very carefully. The rest of the things should be fairly simple. Okay, so now we get to this problem here. This will require you to use Excel. So I've already got my Excel open right now. Um, for some of these problems, now first off, when you're going to copy over data into Excel from eMath, I highly recommend using Google Chrome because I've tried copying the Excel data over. Like this one's fine because you can download it, but I've tried copying Excel data over from Safari because I am a Mac user, so I use Safari a lot. Um, and that does not work. So if you see it not working, that is most likely why. Try it in Google Chrome and it should work. If you have any other issues, you can definitely talk to me about it. But let's just do this problem really fast. So I'm going to download this guy. So this is how you would use Excel to solve this problem. We're given basically a whole bunch of fast food restaurants and stuff, and we're asked to find like their mean profit or their system-wide sales. So first things first, we need to find the mean. Now remember, what's the mean? Well, the mean is just the average. So we want to find the average system-wide sales. So here you can see, I know it's kind of small. Let's put this in a little. So you can see all this data here, so you don't have to worry about really doing anything with the data. We just need to find the mean. So if you're not very good with Excel, this is how you would do it. So you want to know the system-wide sales, right? So we don't want average sales. These are just per restaurant, the average. So we want to find system-wide sales. So just in a blank cell, type in equals. Now, anytime you want to do any kind of a function in Excel, so you want to do uh, an addition or subtraction, or if you want to perform some kind of an operation or use a function, you have to type in equals first. Okay, so I'm doing equals average. So I want to find the average, just double click down here, or you can open with a parenthesis. Now look at it. It's asking me, and a lot of times Excel will always ask you like pretty much exactly when I tell you exactly what you need to do. So if I want to find the average, I have to put in different numbers. So I put in number 1, then number 2, and so on. This part's easy because for Excel, all you have to do is click on the first cell. So see, it says find the average of C2, but you don't just want that average. So in the middle, drag it all the way down until you get all the numbers in it. So now I've got all of these system-wide sales in millions. Okay, so I hit enter, and there we go. My average is $3,415.03. But of course that's in millions, so you'd multiply this number by a million. So it'd be like, yeah, a lot more than just 3,415. Okay, so this is my answer. So this is my mean. So let's just copy this guy over. Alright, so it says, what is the mean of the top 50 companies with respect to the system-wide sales in millions? So I already put it there, and it's correct, right? So 3415, and it was 3415. Okay. So now they want to know the variance. So what is our variance, and then our standard deviation. Now in class we're going to go over the function, or not really the function, the formula for variance and standard deviation. They're pretty intense, but in Excel it's really, really easy to find the variance. So if you want to find the variance, which is just another measure of the spread, simply do this. So you type in equals var, and now there are two different var functions. There's var.p and var.s. var.p is for population, so you're not going to really use this all that much unless it tells you it's a population. So like if we were looking for a certain characteristic or something in specifically our class, so I don't know, how many people in our class have red hair. So that would be, our population would be our class because I deemed it to be our class. But if I'm talking about how many students in the world have red hair, but we only take a small subset, like our class, out of that, then that would be what is called a sample. So here we're just looking at some of the data for all of these companies. So not all of it. So that must mean we are doing a sample. So var.s. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the same thing we did with mean. So click on the first guy and then drag it all the way down, and then hit enter. So once you get everything selected, enter, and voila, there's our variance. So copy that guy over there, and I already did, and you'll see that it is correct. Okay, now standard deviation you can find two different ways. So let's say you don't know the variance yet. If you know the variance, this is how you find the standard deviation. So standard deviation is simply you take the square root of your variance. So see, SQRT, that's taking the square root, and then I want it of my variance. So this would be your standard deviation. Now you can do it that way, or if you don't know your variance, you can find it the exact same way as variance pretty much, except instead of var, just type in STDE, and then you have standard deviation dot population or standard deviation dot sample. So click on the sample one, right? Because we're still working with a sample. And you'll be doing samples for most of the course. Like if you're confused with why am I using sample instead of population, you know, you might have a question every now and then that'll give you population, but for the most part in statistics, you're going to be dealing with samples, because if you think about it, finding data regarding a sample and then making inferences about the population with the sample is a lot easier of a process than finding the data for the entire population. Okay, so this is our standard deviation, so you can just copy it and then paste it in there, but that's what I already got. Okay, so that's all of chapter 2, so not way too difficult here. Now let's go to chapter 3. So there's a tad bit more going on in chapter 3, which is examining relationships, but it's not horribly like evil. So in chapter 3, the first part of chapter 3, we talk about different kinds of variables. So remember, a variable could have really two different qualities. It can be an explanatory variable, or it can be a response variable. So if you think about it, an example I'll do in class would be, just look at a simple linear function, right? Y is equal to mx plus b, right? We've seen those in algebra. Y in this case is completely dependent on what you put in for x. So x you can put in any number you want to, but y is only found really through what you put in for x. So that's why y in that case would be a response variable, and x would be the explanatory variable, which means whatever you put in for x, it explains what y will be, or explains something about y. So that's what mostly these things are. So they just ask you some questions like heart disease affected by amount of saturated fat intake, explanatory variable. Well, what explains some heart disease? Well, a pretty good variable is your saturated fat intake. So saturated fat intake would be your explanatory variable. It explains a little bit about heart disease. So that's pretty much what you're doing here. And then we get to this part where we have to do, of course, explanatory variable, response variable, but then they ask for a 5-number summary. Now remember, a 5-number summary is just, it's kind of like the box plots we were just talking about. You have a min value and you have a max value, and then you have these different quartiles. So of course, Q1 means that 25% of the data lies below this number. Median, remember, of course, median means that 50% of the data lies below this number. And then Q3, so quartile 3, 75% of the data lies below this 36.8. So that's all nice, but how do you find these numbers? So let's check this out. So let me just kill all of this stuff. Okay, so start fresh. So now this is where running this in Chrome might be kind of useful. It might work in another browser. I haven't tried. I've only tried Safari, and Safari does not like it when you try to copy this stuff. Okay, so in order to get the 5-number summary, I have to copy all of this junk. Now, be careful how you copy this, because I've been told sometimes if you have a little extra space after the 24, it doesn't copy it over correctly, so just make sure you don't have that extra blue space. You see right here, 26 has a little extra blue space, 24 doesn't. Supposedly, this is kind of what makes the whole thing come crashing down. So just make sure that you copy it over correctly. If you don't, it's not really a big deal. Just make sure that you practice, get it over, try it a few times, and it should end up working. Okay, so let me see. Did that end up working? Yeah, it did. Just counted that as an extra cell. So I think I can kill this. So not really necessary, but might need. It's a good idea to do that, I guess. Okay, so I'm gonna yikes, zoom this out a bit. Okay, so I want to see. Oh, I don't really want to see all this stuff. Just mid-size and then compact. And then we have luxury car. Okay, so these are the different miles per gallon. So as it says, a study was conducted, the top 15 compact, midsize, and luxury cars, and then we try to examine how the overall fuel economy is affected by the type of each car. Okay, so we're looking at compact cars, a mid-sized car, or a luxury car. So remember, these are the top 15 compact cars. So first thing we're going to do is find our 5-number summary. So just on this side, I would just put your min value, your Q1, so here's our Q1, And then we have our Q2, which is also known as the median. And then we have Q3, and then our max value. Okay, so let's just say this will be for compact cars, and this right here is under mid-sized. So I'm going to show you kind of a neat little trick to get the 5-number summaries kind of quickly. And then luxury. Okay, I think this cell here can be killed as well. Alright, so we've got all of our, this data is over here. This is all we really need to continue working. Now, you want to get the 5-number summary of compact cars, mid-sized cars, and luxury cars. Now, it seems like a lot of typing, but I'm going to show you a quick way to do this. Okay, so notice that I put the compact cell for cars, I put this right beneath the fuel economy for the same cars. So this is compact car, and this is the fuel economy. So whenever you're doing this, make sure that whatever data you're going to be finding averages for or quartiles for, it's right below this data, because then we can copy things over, and then it will continue doing what we want it to do. So first things first, to find the min, it's easy. Just do equals min, and then just select all of this stuff. Now you could just look at it and go, oh yeah, this is the min, or you can just do that. So we know the min was 23 because out of all these numbers, 23 is the smallest. Okay, so now quartile, so do equals, and then you guessed it, quartile. The quartile.xe, so is exclusive and inclusive. These guys are kind of, they kind of make it act kind of strange. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Just go with just quartile without the .exe or inc, and it works just fine. So again, select all of your data, and then here, as an input, quartile function will take an array. So an array just means all of your data, and then the quartile. So you're going to tell it 1, 2, or 3. So 1 would be the first quartile, and then 3 would be the third quartile, and you could just do median for the second one. Okay, so now it tells me that 30.5 is the first quartile. So now for this one, you can do the quartile again, but if it's median, I just do median. It's easier. So find your median, and then do the same thing, quartile 3. So quartile, your array, we're looking for the third quartile, and then max value here. So find our max value. Of course we know what it is, but you know. Okay, so now see here, if you're looking inside the cell, you see that it says the data that it's taking for the min is B2 to B12, right? So if I look at this, it'll highlight and show me exactly what is going on. Now if I just go like, oops, let me undo that. Now if I copy this cell, so if I copy this cell and I put it right over here under mid-size, so under the fuel economy, watch what happens. Look, the number changed. That's because Excel will remember your programming or the stuff you put into the box. So any function that you use, it will remember that function, and then when you move it over, it also moves the lettering. So see here I was working in column B, right, for the compact cars. Now I'm working in column D. So if I copy the 23 or the min B to B11, it's now going to change this to min D to D11. So it can make things a lot faster for you. And look, you can copy it all the way. Oops, don't do that because that doesn't work. But see, you can continue to copy all this stuff all the way down, and it will do that for you. So just make sure that when you're dealing with large data sets like this, or data sets that are even larger, that you do these handy little tools, because it can make the problem go by a lot faster. And of course too, if you want to, just copy all of it. See, copy it all, and it all comes nicely. So I'm just going to copy all of this, put it all under luxury, and there we go. So now I have my 3 5-number summaries. So I have the 5-number summary for compact, and for mid-sized, and for luxury. So I mean, you can do that for averages too. So like, let's say, I don't know, I have data here, um, like, I don't know, just this, and then I have another data set here where it's like, uh, oh, it's, for some reason it's in dollars, so I'll just do it over here. Oops. Okay, so just make, okay, so see here, if I do average, let's say we want to find the mean of both of these, I'll just do average and I'll do this cell here, so right above it. Okay, so I find the average. So now if I want the average, to calculate the average over here as well, you can either copy this, you know, Control C, or go over and hit copy, and then paste it, or you can click on the cell you want to copy and see like how usually when you're looking at cells, it's like this kind of white cross, like see how it's like over the number of the white cross? Well, if you click on the cell and then down here and it becomes this little black cross, this means you can copy this cell over. So see, I can copy the cell as long as I want to. I can copy it down, but I just want to copy it over into this cell. And there we go, it's copied. So then I found the average of both of these. So that's just a handy tool. I know Excel can be kind of scary at first. There's a lot of stuff going on in Excel. But if you know how to use it correctly, it can make things go a lot faster. So if you need help, of course, with any Excel functions or anything, you can let me know. We can talk about it in my office or when I'm in the mile. I'd be more than happy to help you learn some of these quick little tricks. But other than that, these are 5-number summaries, so you'd be able to finish up the problem. And then I think the rest of the problem is just looking at, well, which box plot represents this. So you just look at your 5-number summary, and you know how to make a 5-number summary look like a box plot. So this shouldn't be very hard for you at all. This one right here, as you can see, it counted this as incorrect because I didn't put one of the correct answers there. This can be kind of annoying. Just make sure you, because I was using the 5-number summary for this. Don't use the 5-number summary for this problem. Use the picture that you get when it's correct. Use the picture, and it makes this problem so much easier. So just make sure that you go through and do this correctly. And then the rest of these problems aren't way too bad. Just some probability problems. So just make sure that you can do this. You can do Excel with this as well. Um, but yeah, it's not way too difficult. All right, and that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. So if you need any help, send me an email or come to my office sometime.